What's up YouTube? It's your boy AP, and today I'm breaking down my very own variant of C. Kaiba's mirror farming strategy. Now the reason it's called a mirror farming strat is because it prints out a lot of natural currency drops. I'm averaging about one raw Divine Orb per map, often even more than that. And when I say natural currency, what I'm talking about is a Divine Orb that's dropping off of a normal generic monster we're killing. I'm making this distinction as there are also tiled divine drops, such as the ones that drop off of a Legion reward, and also divine drops that you can get in something like a heist display case. The reason this is important is because if you didn't already know, blasters have done the math on the odds of dropping a natural mirror. In order to mathematically drop one, you have to on average drop a little over 300 of these natural divine orbs. In this video, I'm going to walk you through, first off, the methodology here. So why we juice our maps the way we do, and how we're going to target natural currency drops. Then I'm going to pull up the Atlas trees. Yeah, there are two Atlas trees we rotate between to maximize profits and keep a loop going. We want this to be a self-sustaining strat where you don't have to go out and buy specific maps, but at the same time, we want to take advantage of our best rolled maps with a really juiced tree. Finally, we'll talk about scarabs and what actually makes a map worth running in the first place. Okay, section 1, methodology. The core idea behind the strategy is to kill a ton of magic monsters. You may ask why? Well, it's because magic monsters have a 600% inherent increased quantity of items drop bonus. Now, how does this compare to rare monsters? Those are even better. They have a 1400% inherent bonus. However, here's the kicker. Magic monsters spawn in dense packs and can scale with pack size. Rare monsters do not. This makes magic packs the premium source of currency farming right now. In the past, you needed to use T17 maps to scale the more multipliers in the implicits for stuff like maps as well as currency. However, with the introduction of T16.5s, we can still get these crazy bonuses, but on a more favorable open map layout, which is what we will be taking advantage of for the breaches we're going to run in this strat. Ideally, we want to have either a well-crafted 6-mod map or an 8-mod corrupted map, which will give us a lot of quantity, pack size, and density. And we want the map to either have a more multiplier for maps or for currency in the implicits. We want to aim for above 100%, but even higher is better. Now, as for scarabs, we will be using risk scarabs to scale up these map modifiers further, and wisp scarabs to multiply all of this juice we're stacking to turn our maps into loot pinatas. Now, Breach and Alva can both spawn a massive amount of magic monsters, and both of these mechanics also scale off of all the aforementioned multipliers. So this is, at its heart, a Breach and an Alva strat. And you may notice we are not using any Breach scarabs. However, make no mistake, Breach is the focus of the strategy, and the Atlas tree, as well as crafting Breach from the map device, is how we get this. So that's the core goal. Maximize monster density, scale up the quant and pack size, and then use all these more multipliers to scale everything to the next level. Now with this out of the way, I want to reinforce how everything plays off of each other by bringing up the Atlas passive tree. Alright, so we're going to be using two different trees here. There's the normal one, which we'll be using for most of our maps, as well as the juice tree for only the best maps. Now for the normal tree, we will be emphasizing T16.5s that have a more maps multiplier in the implicit. Having more currency is also nice for this strategy. However, more scarabs is kind of a throwaway stat. You do not need that one. For this strategy, I suggest 3 risk scarabs. However, those are kind of flex. The scarabs that are mandatory are Cardo Scarab of Corruption, so that everything drops 8 mod corrupted, as well as Cardo Scarab of Escalation. There are so many monsters in these maps that the Escalation Scarab combined with an 8 mod map just drops a ridiculous amount of 8 mod maps. And you have to drop a lot of 8 mod maps in order to get a lot of 8 mod 16.5 corrupted maps, which is what we're aiming for here. This is to sustain the strat so we can keep this going. It also drops a lot of T17 maps. I'm getting 3 to 4 per map with this. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't understand how it's dropping so many, to be honest. But yeah, you'll be able to feed some of those 8 mod maps to your mappers in King's March. We're really aiming for 16.5 specifically. And this tree, we go for obviously Breach. because these maps are just super juiced, and I suggest doing this on either Dunes or Canyon, which because they're good layouts for Breach. We have a chance of getting a lot of breaches, and since we're running Breach, we are combining this with Beyond, as that is just, you know, a lot of Breach monsters combined with Beyond spawns even more currency. I think you are getting quite a bit of Divine Orbs actually from this 30% more multiplier here. We're also obviously going for Alva, as I hinted to earlier, because the Alva temples can contain just all magic monsters. It's not guaranteed, but there is a chance of that happening. And then you just get so much loot. You're almost guaranteed a divine drop if you do luck out with that RNG roll. And the key difference between this tree and the tree I'm going to show you later is that this tree does have a lot of map passive points because we are trying to scale up those map drops. When we look at the other tree, we're pulling off the map nodes basically for Delirium. Now Delirium is something you don't have to do, but it is going to scale your rewards further. I mean, it even just combos really well with Beyond. And the reason why I'm able to do such a greedy tree here, whereas Kaiba has a lot of shrines, is because I'm running Viper Strike of the Mamba. I'll have my build guide linked in the pinned comment, but that build, the way it scales its damage, it doesn't matter how much damage reduction that Delirium is adding. We just have so much raw amount of damage potential for mapping that we're going to be at dot cap guaranteed in any circumstance. So I don't even need to use these shrines to buff my character enough to clear these maps. We're just one-shotting screens no matter what. So this is a very hard setup, but specifically if you're playing my build, and you can get started with just 50 divines, although I do recommend adding a Progenesis in, so that brings it over 100 in the ideal circumstance. Like these maps should be fine. In fact, if you are playing my build, that's part of the reason why I'm putting out this video. I think this is a great strategy for us Pathfinder Viper Strike of the Mamba players. Now for this juice tree, you are going to be running your maps that have the highest more multipliers to currency, and I guess you probably also don't want to run the ones that have the more multiplier to maps, because we're going to be dropping those 2 map scarabs for 2 wisp scarabs. And the way those wisp scarabs work, you really want to either run 2 of them or none at all, because they sort of stack with each other. So 3 risk, 2 wisp scarabs for the super juiced stuff, and then 3 risk with the 2 Cardo scarabs for your normal juice maps, which maybe has a more multiplier to maps. And that is the essence of this strategy. Super fun. You do need to have a strong build. And again, I just want to say Viper Strike of the Mamba, this is made for it. It is so good. All right, we'll wrap up this video by going over the sort of maps you want to be running. So this is my map tab for 8 mod corrupted 16.5s, and I already have a regex. You can type exclamation regex in my Twitch chat if you're playing my build, and it'll highlight the maps that should be easy to run. Although realistically speaking, a lot of the ones that are grayed out I can run, because I can run every single map mod. So really I could just type in more currency. And then this is going to highlight anything that is potentially okay to run for the juice tree. And then I could type in more maps. And these might be useful for the first tree that doesn't go for the wisp scarabs. Realistically speaking, I've already run all my best maps. These are sort of the leftovers, but as you can see, there were quite a few that were being highlighted. I use singular focus on the normal tree because I will want to put in ideally a 16.5 that's Dunes or Jungle Valley, one of the two, whichever. You want to scry a good div card, whatever you choose. Something good for breaches, and then we'll only drop the 16.5s for that layout. However, just over the course of the last few weeks, I've been doing various different strats, and I do have a lot of just uncorrupted 16.5s. And if you want to make use of these, a pro tip would be you can use Orb of Horizon to change them all into the same layout, and the best layout that they can roll is Canyon. And it actually doesn't even take that many to hit one. There, I got it in 2. There's not too many natural T16s. So I have everything rolled on Canyon, and we can just, you know, scour alch these. Since these aren't corrupted, you do have actually a higher ceiling with these, because there are these things that exist. Maven's Chisel of Avarice, which improves your maps to have even more currency from them. So if you do end up having a bunch of uncorrupted 16.5s, you know, just craft them all and look for the absolute best ones that have crazy multipliers for more currency. And I suggest you use the Maven Chisel on those. But these chisels are pretty expensive. You want to save them for the absolute best maps. And as I said in the intro, you can do 16.5s that are 6 mod, but this strategy does focus on dropping specifically your map in a 16.5 corrupted. It goes without saying, you should favorite the map you want. You can see I have Grave Trough. That's because Canyon does not have anything scried onto it. I want to start running those uncorrupted maps, but I'm trying to move Grave Trough over there because it's one of the best div cards. And you do want to have something scried onto the map you're running. These are super juiced. You are going to be dropping some good div cards. My Dunes map has the Ivory Temple cards, so Fracturing Orbs and Divine Orbs. And then if I choose to run Jungle Valley, which is another good option, this one has the Mirror Shard, the Original Sin card, the Enlighten, and hopefully soon Grave Trough is going to have Brother's Gift and the other one, Brother's Stash. Okay, and to go over these Scarabs one last time, for the normal tree, we are going to do 3 Risk, 1 Cardo Scarab of Corruption, 1 Cardo Scarab of Escalation, and we're going to mod on Breach. And for the really juicy maps, we switch to the other tree, and we put on 2 Wisp Scarabs. And this should have a very high multiplier to currency, possibly also the Maven Chisels for extra currency. And you still mod on Breach. So remember to swap between the 2 trees depending on the quality of your map. And yeah, that's basically it. Another little tip would be, you'll sometimes end up getting one of these chains, and these are actually really good to run with this strategy because each time you complete a map at the end, you get a permanent buff for everything further down on the chain. And you can get some really crazy stuff like 40% more currency found in your next maps. So these actually can be even better than what we're doing. And that's why I have, actually no, you would want these points up here to spawn it more often, but I don't have enough points. But if you had a way, maybe Delhi is too hard, you could grab these points. This is just here to drop more T16.5s. But yeah, trees stretch a little thin. And that's the video. Leave a like if you like the video, sub or you'll drop no mirrors with this. And big credit to Kaiba. I'm going to link him in the video description because this is essentially his strat. I've just changed a few things to make it a little bit more powerful since we didn't need the shrines. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.